Go. Hey, everybody, come on in. Thanks for being here, especially on a Sunday morning.
On Independence Day.
On a holiday Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight Russ Leach live.
They're gonna dump my tea into the harbor.
That was many years ago. And hopefully, I don't even think it was that much tea. Anyway.
Yeah, terrible.
All of our history gets so mutated, disjointed, exaggerated.
Of course, yeah.
Blown
it's like
around.
The ultimate game of telephone.
Yeah. I always wanted to do I had a character made up who had kind of a tubular Rubik's Cube type thing that he would slam and go back in time. I always wanted to do a realistic time travel book where the kid is going to go back to 1776 and he's here in Michigan and he hits the button and he's right in the middle of a super dense forest and can't
and then he gets eaten by wolves. The end.
Then he has to. Then he meets the natives. Yeah, and all the wildlife run him over. Yeah, that's what happens. Oh well, so much for Philadelphia. You want to get to Philadelphia? That's like 3 months away.
Exactly. Yeah.
Start walking. Find a horse.
No, there was. I was watching. Gangs of New York. And there's a scene where one of the characters is talking about going to California, and she maps out and she shows the Leonardo DiCaprio character on the map, the route, and it goes all the way around South America. Like it was going to be like a 6-month trip just to get to California from New York.
Yeah. It's the way it used to go. Either that or you take a wagon train and take a few months. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And hope.
Yeah. And hope you actually get
most
there.
Most of them didn't really make it. Yeah. Dave and Marv are in the house. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, good morning.
Mike Jimmy, of course, is in the house.
Good morning. Because Mike Jimmy doesn't sleep.
No. You won't be able to understand a word of the early Americans because language changes constantly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sure.
Don't stand on my keyboard.
That would be part of the fun. Everybody's speaking more than proper English. No. Like, what? What's this? It could be fun. I was going to call it Just in Time. The kid name was Justin. And he was always late for stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway. It was his dad's time machine device. Anyway, welcome everybody to another episode of Sunday Funnies for July 4th, 2021. That's why we have Russ here. To have equal balance. Actually, I knew Russ wouldn't be sleeping in. So.
Right, exactly.
JD Calderon had threatened to be here.
Oh, no way.
He did. I swear he did. He said maybe I'll get up. I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Right. Yeah, that's what I usually say. It's like, yeah, okay.
I sent him a link. Just in case.
Just in case, yeah.
No.
You never know. Although he didn't mention it to me, so most likely it won't happen.
If you don't know about it, it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's the way that goes. Morning, all. Happy 4th of July from Joe. Joe, you're awake.
Good morning.
Happy 4th of July. Independence for the independent comics. Absolutely.
Oh, that's true. Yes. Very good. Very good.
And I really want to talk about independent comics today, not the mainstream books, not the pseudo mainstream books, not the companies that are begging to be the Netflix deal books.
Oh, yeah, really.
The true independent comics that are out there. I pulled some books. If things get slow, I can show stuff off. That's how I found that Titan's Pocket book I was showing Russ earlier. That great cover.
That's the problem with looking for books. You just end up in the rabbit hole of your collection.
Yeah, that's an old Avengers cover right there that they repurposed for your Titans book. Couldn't even tell you who drew that. It's pretty standard poses, though. And it's the fantastic first issue. Might be the fantastic only issue, as far as I know. Marvel Digest series from Britain, 15p. But anyway, that's all mainstream we're talking about today. We're going to talk about independent books, alternative books, small press books, those books that you see at shows even that you run across and you go, oh, that looks kind of cool. I think I'll pick that up. Or the not the Netflixers, not the Scoots or the Aftershocks or the big the wannabes, big companies.
IDWs.
The IDWs. Let's talk about the indie books. Tell us in the chat what your favorite independent book is.
Oh, I'm gonna have to clear off my shelf to
not from those mainstreamers. Yeah, that's what I did. I scoured through my shelves there for a little while.
Yeah.
Though it's from IDW, Bill Mesner's Loeb's Journey. It's a classic book I got into when I was a kid. Literally, I was in issue 11 and issue 13 in the back of there. Bill Mesner Loeb's was the first big, in my mind, huge publisher to print me back in those days. So it was fun and an honor. And, you get to hold that physical book in your hand, a story has been mass produced, and you decide that's where you're going to go from there on.
Right, yeah. I mean, I still find it trippy, the idea that that our books, that it is inspiring somebody right now to do their own comic.
What's really trippy for me is for somebody, even in the business like yourself, to tell me that they remember a book that I did back when, 35, 35, almost 40 freaking years. Really, you like that? I'm glad you like that book. That kind of thing. So we're going to run the opening. We're going to run some introductions, and then we will get on to the topic at hand, which is independent comics. Hang on, folks. Here comes the intro.
How dare you?
Can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. Can't nobody.
We're going to tell you everything.
Tell us everything. And again, welcome everybody to another episode of Sunday Funnies. Hopefully we are on Indie Vault Radio this morning. Varian is probably sleeping in. I didn't get the chance to listen to Backer Shots last night. So
Brian, it was a train wreck as always.
Exactly how crazy that got, or if we should even expect Varian awake this morning.
I mean, at the very end, they did like
a little too much.
Well, they all at once, let's just say, and it's just like, so I don't know what's going on this morning.
And that's Backer Shots available on the Lola the Indie Princess channel, not on Indie Vault, because things get a little crazy, and we want to keep Indie Vault a little bit more open for sponsorships.
Sponsor friendly. That was not sponsor friendly last night.
Okay. You'll all have to go over there and experience that then over on the Lola, the Indie Princess channel. But we're here to talk about independence. Anybody out there who's been on the show before, wants in, send me a PM on Facebook, and I'll happily give you a link if you want to tell us about your favorite indie books. There's been a lot of them, and really it's time for those books, those oddball books that you catch and you enjoy, even if you only see it at one show, that are at the forefront of this of the art form. There's so many unique voices out there. It's impossible, and it'll be impossible to list even a tenth of them.
The worst part is
now.
The worst part is that I used to have a much larger collection of indie comics, and for some reason I barely have a fraction of it anymore. Like, I remember books that I had that's like, why did I get rid of that? Why did I get rid of that?
Mm-hmm.
And that was, and also it's like, so I was thinking about that. And the thing is though, it's like, man, we were spoiled. We were really, really spoiled, or at least I was. It's like I literally thought it's like, oh yeah, you know, it's like they'll collect it in a trade, no big deal. This, that, and the other thing. Like, little did I know that not everybody makes it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
And
I keep threatening to go through my long boxes one of these days. I'll cut the time and do that and pull out the really oddball stuff that I've run across. Just the variety is incredible. The art styles and stuff. Some of it's really bad and some of it's incredibly good. You know, and from folks that might pop up and do 1 or 2 issues and then you never hear from them again.
Right. Yeah.
Just gone. Or they'll creep in on some other project, or they'll go on to other stuff, or especially with the way the direct market has been with Diamond and their just crazy system of approvals and hoops and stuff like that. It's impossible to get.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see how dedicated they are to that in the next month or so.
I hear they are lightening up incredibly. But,
I think honestly, I think that they would rather dump the green section than try to improve anything for us.
Well,
although I don't know what would be left for them.
I still think they're going to back offer DC and Marvel product, and then nothing will really change.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Except for the discount scales on the part of the retailer, they'll have to pay more.
Yeah, of course, yeah. You know, because it's like, but it's like, it's like, so I got rid of books thinking that, you know, it's like, this will come out in a trade, and like I'm still waiting for this weirdo to come out with a trade.
Yeah, I know, really bad.
You know, it's like I've been waiting decades for this. I mean, what is this?
And I see,
Randy.
I don't even think I didn't even think that anybody, you know, really cared. That's why everybody I run into now is such a surprise to me. Oh yeah, I remember that book. Whatever happened to so and so?
Yeah.
You know,
so it's right here, right? Yeah, but this is and I had to rebuy all of my copies on eBay before I knew I could just ask you for them.
That's all you had to have done.
Yeah,
I'd have sent them to you. I got copies.
Yeah.
I got a few long boxes full of stuff. So. Yeah. Even Anniverse #2, Tales from the Anniverse #2, and the Anniverse #2 is incredibly rare too. But that from Weeby Comics.
Oh yeah.
I have like one copy of that. That's all I've got.
That's kind of like that's kind of weird. Like I just realized I have like an entire run of my own stuff that I don't have.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah. No.
There you are.
Sorry, I just meant to shut my camera off.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
I thought for a split second we were going to be like,
I'm going to abandon you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then me and Russ are going to have to figure something out.
Hey everybody, I'm Randy Zimmerman. I've been a long time alternative and independent comics creator for many decades. Arrow Comics, freelance with a number of other independent comics publishers like Caliber and Antarctic, and a lot of publishers that aren't around anymore like Mythic and Mermaid. And anyway, now I am working really hard to bring back Arrow Comics. Once again, the Arrow Comics was always a creator-owned company where the creators owned their own IPs, and that spirit is back again with the independents and with crowdfunding, and the way the direct market is hopefully opening up. We shall see, as we will be doing product available exclusively through Liberty Comics or Liberty Entertainment Distributors. That's LEDG.US. Arrow Comics 4.0. And there is some Arrow Comic product already available for you to buy at retail prices, not at wholesale prices, for you retailers out there, in order to put it on your shelf and to help you make money, especially now in this time of uncertainty with Liberty, Liberty's system of distribution. Liberty won't advertise it in stock until they have it directly in stock. So when you order it from Liberty, it's literally days away from hitting your shelves. And that all depends upon how fast the Postal Service can get it to you. So there's nothing on the site that Liberty doesn't already have on hand, ready to be put into a box and sent to you directly for you to put on your shelves and hopefully make money from. So that's LEDG.US. So, and I really appreciate you being here for Sunday Funnies on the Indie Volt Radio Network. Also joining me today is my co-host, Daphne Lage. Daphne, introduce yourself.
Good morning. Yeah, it's like, hello, my name is Daphne Lage, and I'm a cartoonist, illustrator, and comic book artist from New York. And I have been self-publishing comics since 1992 because I don't know any better. And I am known for the funny animal fantasy adventure Tall Tales. And also my medieval fantasy soap opera, Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, which I got 90% of this shipped out already. So thank you all for supporting the Kickstarter. You should be getting your stuff this week. And also, if you want to see this in your local comic book store, it is also available. Oh, and going to be, because I still have to send out variants copies of the second issue. It is going to be available at through Liberty Distribution. So if you want to see this in your comic book store, it's through there. You can get that through there too. Just tell your local comic book shop owner to contact Liberty. You can read both my comics online at Tall Tales, TILS online.com, and egoworks.com, EGOWORKS. And you can check out all my videos on how I make my comics on YouTube at Daphne Lage, Lage Art.
Sweet. Also joining us today because it's afternoon where he is, and
Yes.
everybody else is sleeping in. It's Mr. Russ Leach. Russ, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm the fill-in from the UK. I turn up occasionally because everyone else is asleep.
Yeah,
But that's okay. I'm not really second best.
Absolutely not. sir.
absolutely not.
I'm a comic book artist from the UK. I've had brushes with Marvel in the past, and then ended up coming back to the fold and drawing comics in anger since 2010. Since which time I've been able to work on Doctor Who, on Ben 10, do some stuff for Marvel, and some Mark Osier books, and now I'm working with Arrow, which is humbling. That's really, really cool, and they're producing my book Only Death Can Save Us, which has just finished its campaign. I got 271 backers, so I'm very, very pleased with that. Thank you, everybody. And it means that I can go on and make more books, and Arrow will then redistribute those books as well in floppies. So it's a very, very exciting time for me personally. I think it's an exciting time for comic books, actually. There's change in the air, which is great for everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're independent or whether you're mainstream. Change is good, and great things are happening. So that's me. You can find me at russleach.com, comicbookblackbelt.com, about my book Only Death Can Save Us, at onlydeathcansaveus.com, and the usual social media pits for you can come find me there.
And again, beginning in August, we'll have Only Death Can Save Us #1 out, available for retailers. It is at the printers as we speak.
And an issue 2 artwork was sent to you Friday during the day.
Didn't see it. No, just kidding. I got it.
It got lost in the post.
I haven't opened it. Yeah. Good luck to the post. I'm glad you didn't have to physically mail that in. It's been a month in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. No. The wonders of modern science and internet.
It's that Al Gore.
I was about to say, it's Al Gore's internet.
No, not really.
Not really. Yeah, exactly.
They're going to be arguing here. I think a case in the Supreme Court is coming up that they're reopening about the social libel laws in compliance to the net. Be very interesting to see how that gets settled.
Oh.
So I heard that was they have a couple of the justices asked for it to be reopened because an old case to be reopened because the technology has shifted.
Well, it has. Yeah, I mean, we have laws that were set up by the Labour government 15 years ago, I suppose, something like that. And it's being used to police, to a degree, the internet. And it's just, it's not the same thing. It just isn't the same thing. And my personal opinion, my son disagrees with me on this. My personal opinion is there should be no anonymity. You should stand by what you think, stand by what you say, and get out, and then people wouldn't be half as nasty, and they wouldn't come look. There wouldn't be mobs of people going around trying to destroy people when actually their real names are on the were on
I
the
agree.
receipts,
I agree.
I think people would be just generally nicer to each other.
I think
which is what we need.
I think that's true to an extent, but there does need to be some part somewhere for an anonymous voice to be able to speak out, one that doesn't, or one that knows that there would be a repercussion for having a particular opinion, just in order to get that opinion out, voiced out into the public.
Yeah. Well, the problem is the repercussions, isn't it?
Yes.
Which there shouldn't be. You should be able to say what you think, and
Yeah,
you know.
but there's a certain need for a level of free speech that'll give you a Tijuana Bible or a
Right.
Air Pirates or a piece of work every once in a while to get that opinion out, in order for the people who aren't that afraid to make that stand and to bolster them up in order to promote it. So.
Yeah, the pendulum swings, doesn't it? It doesn't matter which way which side you're coming from. There's always somebody who wants to shut you down.
Even a lot of the early writers were anonymous when they did real questionable stuff that turned out to be, what we would consider to be literary classics today. So there has to be a certain level, not all the time. There is a difference between trolling and opinionating.
I think I think you should be able to anonymously provide an opinion piece, but I don't think you should be able to hammer on people like a mob anonymously.
Yeah.
That's just not right.
Because that verges on slander and libel.
If it's actually bullying and
bullying, yes,
and harassment. But depending on which side of the argument you are, you tend to say, well, that's not harassment because I agree with that opinion, so it's okay.
Well, yeah, that's usually what it is. It's like, well, if I agree with it, it's not harassment,
Exactly.
But if I don't agree with it, then you're bullying me,
and just straight up criticism has become harassment now.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on who you are. So, what are you going to do? Never mind. That's not comics, is it? Let's talk about comics.
It is to an extent, because there's been some really great comics out there of just varying or of a different opinion or a different sense. Some are anonymous, like I said, those Tijuana Bibles and the great underground, some of the great underground works that were done. If not initially, then later on to really test those boundaries. But one book I'm especially fond of is done by Doug Paskowitz by the name of Arsenic Lullaby.
Oh.
I found this. He's out of Milwaukee. I found this book at a show one time and sat and read it. And the guy's sense of humor is so crazy and offbeat and literally two steps to the left that and dark, very, very dark. That I love finding his work, especially when he usually kicks out a new book every year, every 6 months, depending upon how productive he is and how well the previous book does and how much he wants to eat, probably. It's a very different humor book that literally takes a lot of ideas and skews them to incredibly dark measures. So one of the lead characters is a Voodoo Joe, who's a guy who was in Africa and got cursed and had a African tribal mask glued to his head.
Ah, yeah.
That's like The Mask.
Yeah, only he's in constant pain unless he's causing pain to others.
Oh, that is dark.
So yeah, so he's out there living in a suburban life, constantly causing trouble. And,
right. Yeah, it sounds like most of the people I know.
Yeah, to tell you where he got his minions would be a little unsettling, but they were out of a dumpster behind, shall we say, a clinic.
Ooh, no.
It's like, hey, look, if you're gonna, go for it all the way. Commit
to the bit.
Yeah,
a group of little minions that he works with.
Uh-huh.
There's also early on a story he had about a census taker who had to go through and make sure the census was always correct. So any newborn baby was just a statistic that had to be corrected. So that's an interesting taste or twist, or a tooth fairy that was unemployed and out looking for work with other occupations. So,
Fine.
applying to the Grim Reaper for a job, that kind of thing.
Yeah, a kind of dovetailing to what we were talking about. The thing is that, especially like what I've been seeing online nowadays, is like independents are usually what ends up the easy target for the mob.
That's true.
Because it's like, corporations are corporations. You're never going to take down Disney. You're never going to force Disney to do anything. But hey, that little independent, artist did this thing that I don't like, type of thing. I can get them to leave the internet. I can, harass them until they're suicidal. It's like, that's
the classic case of boiled angel.
Right. And then it's like,
Michael Diana.
Then you have the whole Michael Diana thing. They didn't go after Disney. They didn't go after a corporation. They went after, one guy because he did comics they didn't like, And mind you, not to say that Mike Diana was doing anything brilliant. He was just fucking around on paper.
Yeah.
But somebody decided that he was going to be their easy target. And what happens with easy targets is that's where your slippery slope starts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then they go after the next bigger,
Right.
then the next bigger, then the next bigger. Yep.
Yeah. So and it was only by the grace of New York's finest, who didn't give a shit about the case, that he was able to finally get away from that.
Yeah.
From that harassment.
I think that took him from moving from Florida too.
Yeah. And then it's like, and what happened was that Florida tried to get New York to say, oh, well, this guy's moving there, so you have to do this, this, and that. And they go, wait, for drawing pictures? Fuck off. We're not wasting resources on that.
Yeah. Exactly it. Yeah. Let's put this all in perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So it's still a scary story though. I can't watch the documentary because I get like the cold sweats and everything, just the concept of it. And like I said, it's like we have, you've
had your own brush with that.
Yeah, we've had our own brush with that. Although luckily, like personally, we weren't involved. It was still our work that was on trial. And it's Texas versus Castillo, if anyone wants to look it up. It's on the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund website. And it's just, an adult buying adult comics for adults, and just for the mere fact that it was in a comic book store made it, kitty. Yeah, it's like this guy. It's like, oh, it's in a comic book store, so that means you could potentially have sold it to children.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Yeah. So
But
yeah.
The problem I see is so many comics these days aren't for kids.
Right.
Well, the whole demographics has shifted a lot.
Yeah.
And the problem is that the 50s perception has always shifted slower.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of parents out there that think that comics are kiddie trash.
Yeah.
A lot of moms out there, not a large amount, but there's less and less all the time that think that way, as more of these mainstream comics and graphic novels pop out there into the mainstream, and they take a look at them and go, it's not really meant for kids. That was a comic. It's like, yeah, well, comics aren't made for kids. That was part of the problem with the Comic Code Authority, was that comics were starting to grow up, and certain publishers and Congress and a couple of grandstanding psychiatrists decided to try to capitalize on it and point their finger at, oh, you want to know why juvenile delinquency is so high? It's these damn comic books.
It's always somebody else's fault, isn't it?
It's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
Always somebody else's fault.
And comics took the brunt of it, and then they bent over and decided to kowtow to the complainers instead of going, no, they're actually, comics are growing up. This is an art form, and get used to it, like what happened everywhere else, but here in the States.
Yeah, it's like saying that because there's 50 Shades of Grey on sale, no child should ever buy the Hungry Caterpillar.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, that's Twitter logic. Yeah, I mean, it's just very, very strange. Like, but it's like if
they're both books.
right, but it's like, it's like, because the way people like, all I can say is that us doing the work that we do is an absolute privilege.
Yes.
It's like we are standing on blood-soaked shoulders, to tell you the truth. I mean, really.
Blood-soaked, poverty-stricken
Yes.
shoulders at that. Yes.
I mean, so it's like so anything that we have to do to protect what we do, is because it's like, what, I don't want any, like just the whole idea that we were able to circumvent Diamond, that Diamond decided we weren't worth their time.
Mm-hmm.
And as a collective, we figured out how to work around them and survive. And now they're the ones
digging
that
the
are
trenches.
that are gasping for air, looking at us, going, but, and we're like going, but what?
Yeah.
Well, the big problem with that, though, is that Diamond also fed these retailers and conditioned Pavlovian style, conditioned these retailers to a certain type, a certain demographic, a certain book, a certain look. And those blinders are having a really hard time coming off.
Yeah.
Just like the outside perception of what sequential art is and the capabilities that it has. So the more stuff like American Splendor gets out there, and I'm really amazed that Mouse hasn't been animated by now.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't
I'm not, or I'm really. It's kind of crazy to think that such an important work needs to be out there to the masses. Either that or Spiegelman just decided that it works as a comic, and that's the way he wants it left. So because I can't see him not being offered at one point or another, because it would be important to do. It would be good to do, just to have it out there into the larger market.
Yeah.
But it's such a great metaphor use, and such a classic work.
And that's the thing too. It's like, as much as there's work out there that we don't like, for whatever reason, that work existing allows us to do what we want to do.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. That's why it's like this whole, like, people wanting a return to the Hays Code and the Comics Code Authority, because, we have to protect the children. It's like, you don't give a shit about children. Don't give me that. Honestly, it's like, I really don't. It's like, what you're talking about is that you're running on this fallacy that it's like, if work that you don't like doesn't exist, then that means that you're somehow morally superior, and evil stops being in the world because or because of something. It's like, if Mike Diana's work didn't exist, life would be perfect. It's like, no, that's stupid. The one has nothing to do with the other. It's a reflection.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean that all of a sudden all bad things, banning Lolita doesn't mean that pedophiles cease to exist.
That's like saying that without expressionist artwork or somebody like Pollock's work wasn't out there, that art would be much better off for it.
Right. Yeah. It's like, you know who else thought that way? Nazis. So
even taping a banana to the wall.
I mean, stupid. Look, money doesn't launder itself. Okay, money doesn't launder itself. So you need that banana taped to the wall.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Though, anybody wants to pay me $300,000 for it, I'll gladly tape a banana to a wall.
I think a lot of it has stemmed from also a snobbery around effectively a working class art form.
Yes,
really,
really. That's what it feels like a lot of times too. It's like, this is a comic to the work of the poors.
Well, it's literally the work of the working class, because that's how it started, as editorial cartoons of people picking on politicians.
Exactly.
Look at this guy; he's a pig.
Right. Yeah.
It's very very much a case of snobbery, and then what happens is the snobbery turns into effectively a lower opinion of the art form, sequential art, comics, whatever it might be.
Oh, snap.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and then that feeds into, well, if it's lower, then it must all be for children, and you can
Right.
work that logic in, and then suddenly anything within that art form that is not for kids is obviously abhorrent and needs
Right.
to be removed, because it's obviously for kids because it's a lower art form.
Yeah.
Where you're doing
Well,
two things there. Firstly, you're dissing the art form, and secondly, you're talking down to kids.
Yeah.
And both of those things are incredibly bad.
Yeah.
But also initially, especially with the primitive printing processes that we've had once color was introduced, and only being able to hit primaries and not being able to do subtle shades when you print a work, comics naturally appealed to kids with the bright colors and being on the newsstand up against the painted covers of the pulp magazines or the photographic covers of Look and Life. Suddenly you had all of this bright, solid color sitting there. Of course, the kids are going to be drawn to it.
Right.
And then once they realized that there was money, there's gold in them there hills, then you saw all of this product being aimed right at kids, funny animals, just lighthearted, fair, Archie type stuff. And then with superheroes are really power fantasies or modern mythology that kids would glom on to just to have that escape and that adventure. Very, very much an outgrowth of the pulp magazines and the radio dramas that of the day.
I don't want to see censorship.
No.
But I don't. I mean, like games managed to do it. They have like a games for everyone, games for 15 plus, games for 18 plus. I don't see any harm in putting that on a comic.
It's a fine line, because it's like I said, like recently in book Twitter, there was this whole discussion of putting trigger warnings, content warnings, not trigger warnings, content warnings, on books, so that people will know. It's like, okay, what to expect going in. But what happened was that the entire conversation quickly turned as to how content warnings were being used to censor authors. Because like, oh, you have this in your book, you have to take that out now, because certain markets won't take it. It's like, or, it's like, oh, it's like, or people will go on websites and put fake content warnings to kind of bury the book. So it's the problem. The problem is not trying to tell people, oh, this is more appropriate for kids, this is more appropriate for adults, this is appropriate for teens, is that how quickly that information gets weaponized.
But if you,
what I was going to say, usually warnings like that, especially for adult content, just entice a younger readership.
But if it is official, if it's official, then I mean, it's like video games. There was a massive outcry about the one where you kill hookers and get in a car.
Grand Theft
Auto. There was a massive outcry about that,
which, by the way, was manufactured by Rockstar Games.
Exactly.
They purposely targeted those people, knowing that the controversy would be good for business.
Exactly, but as with everything, there is personal responsibility in all of this, and it doesn't matter whether you're picking up a DVD, whether you're sneaking someone underage into a cinema, whether you're buying your kids games, personal responsibility. Put an age on it and make it a guidance. It's up to people. It's not up to a mob, or the people who think what's best for everybody. It's up to individuals to decide on what's best for them.
Yeah, because the last thing I want is a mob of tween activists on Twitter trying to regulate what I can do and purchase.
No, it's too late.
Too late.
Yeah.
We've already got that kind of crap. Back in the late 70s, DC actually was going to do a series of ratings. A G, a PG, an R, and an X for their books. And it was quickly shot down from inside the industry.
Oh, I think Frank, there was a whole, no. That I think that was something else with Frank Miller.
No, you're right on.
Okay.
You are right on. He led a group of people that were just vigorously opposed to it, where if you were to sit down and think about it, it's like, well, yeah, if you're going to grow the market, you do need to have that identifier.
Yeah.
And you do need to draw that line, very much like movies, G,
Yeah.
PG, PG-13, R, and X.
Yeah.
You know, in order to be able to do that content and not have to worry about the audience that it's aimed for or any parental kickback.
Yeah. No,
on
I don't see what the problem is with that. I
Well,
really don't.
I kind of
Just think of what
wondered,
would have happened if the Comic Code Authority had gone in the other direction and had become a rating system, as
Yeah.
opposed to like a 12 and under and 12 or 13 and older market on that. Because you had, back when the code was kicked in, you had books like the EC titles and Crime Does Not Pay. The Charles Burrow, I think, was doing those books at the time, making millions and selling multiple millions of copies that were squashed because of the Comic Code Authority and their perception that it was all just little kids that were picking those books up.
which is, you know, I kind of wonder if a lot of that has to do, like, because the whole reason the whole thing popped up in book Twitter was because books themselves, prose books, they don't have this. I think they're the only industry left that doesn't have this type of system where, you know. But the thing is, though, you walk into a bookstore.
Technically, they do.
You have categories.
Yes.
Like you have a children's section, you have a young adult section, you have mysteries, you have lit, you know, like literature. So it's not that those titles themselves are about, you know, like they list exactly what the content is, but they give you an idea as to what the books are and what they could possibly contain and whether they would interest you or not. I always found it frustrating that I go into a comic book shop and that system is not there. That it's like there is no, like, okay, they have a manga section, you know, but even
for the most part, it's not there. There are some retailers out there that actually segregate their books like that.
Right. That it's like that, you know, it's like, I want to know where the fantasy section is. I want to know where the science fiction section is. I want to know, you know, it's like, you know, the romance. It's like, you know, just so I can narrow my focus.
Right.
You know, and kind of like look for the things that I want, that I'm interested in, not have to like literally go into a haystack and I go, well, maybe. You know? Yeah. So so it's like, so yeah, but like I said, it's like my concern is how quickly these types of things really do get weaponized against creators, because it's like, you know, like even with the rating system for movies, it's like NC-17 movies can't get shown anywhere. That's like the kiss of death for movies, even though NC-17 can mean anything from someone said fuck twice, you know, to actual real intercourse. So it's like you have like, it's kind of like regulations.
That's a pretty wide
right. It's kind of like regulations. One of my former bosses, she used to work in restaurant before she became, and she just happened, we were just happened to talk about regulations, and she goes, oh, the regulations for restaurants are such bullshit, because not wearing your hair up is gets you the same penalty as if they find a rat in your food.
That's ridiculous.
You know, so I kind of see some of the rating system the same way, that it's like, really, it's like, you know,
and we know there's a lot of rats in the food.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, so the rating systems, unless it's like, it's like, I just find it weird that you have like this very broad definition that could mean the life or death of a certain product. Because it's like, you know, it's like, it's the ratings are infamous for this, where it's like, oh, a guy, you know, it's like, oh, a guy, you know, raping a woman is a rated R movie, but the guy having consensual sex with a woman is NC-17. You know, if he shot her in the head, it's a PG-13 movie. You know, it's like, what?
Well, that's part of the NCAA hits the same problems as the Comic Code Authority, in that their definitions are badly liquid, and not very well defined. You know, that
and very much
old urban legend. the urban legend about a Quentin Tarantino film
Yeah.
is that he overloads it
Yeah.
with ultra gross scenes on purpose in order to get the scenes that he felt are most important through.
Yeah. The same thing. The Trey and Matt Stone did the same thing with the first South Park movie. They put in a deliberately disgusting scene in there, knowing they knew they were going to have a problem with one scene. So they put in an absolute over-the-top scene, knowing that was going to attract the ire of the MPAA. And that's exactly what happened. They fell for the bait, and because of that, they were able to get their other scene in because it looked mild by comparison.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, why should we have to play these games?
No,
exactly.
No, it's ridiculous. I mean, who puts people in charge and says they're allowed to censor what we're allowed to make and what people are allowed to see?
I mean,
it should all be about personal choice. And obviously, there are laws. Okay, there are certain things you can't do and you shouldn't do. Okay, and we all agree with that via legislation, via putting people into political and judgmental places. Outside of that, there shouldn't be a whole bunch of people who have never been voted into anything or given any sort of backing from the general public to say, can't watch that.
Yeah. And not for nothing, this is mostly corporations doing this. These are private corporations who are getting together and making this decision to censor what we can access or can't access. But because they're not a government agency, they're not absolutely regulated by the First Amendment.
We've got it's not quite the same setup in the UK as it is in the US for television. Okay, so we have legacy stuff. We used to have only 3 channels. Okay, then we got 4, then we got 5, then satellite TV turned up, which is supposed equivalent to your cable, and like loads more channels turned up, but you could only pay for it. Now we have something called free sat or free view. Okay, and there's just like, it's all deregulated, and there are like hundreds of channels. Okay, so from that legacy era, we had ITV, which was one of which was like the second channel to be put on the television or something. And during the whole explosion of deregulation, it gave you multiple channels. So there'd be ITV1, ITV2, ITV3, ITV4, ITV4 plus 1, so you can catch up for all the crap that they put on. Okay, so it's like that. So anyway, they were showing on ITV4 plus 1 at 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night, Ghostbusters. Okay, and the line in Ghostbusters, the one that everybody remembers is this true? Yes, sir, this man has no dick. That is the line. Okay, it doesn't matter what else you do or don't remember from Ghostbusters, everyone remembers that line. It's an absolutely fabulous scene, and it's a brilliant bit within the scene. It encapsulates Ghostbusters to a degree, and the actors that played the parts, and they bloody well cut it out.
Meanwhile, there's a scene
10 at night. Okay, they cut out the word, yes, this man has no dick. They didn't even do a beep over the dick. They just took the whole thing out, and it's like, what are you doing?
They just killed the joke.
You just killed the film. Okay, the film. Why are you doing this? If you were putting that on the television at 3:30 in the afternoon, thinking kids might be watching, okay, I can understand. But if my kids at the age of 5, I don't know.
But you know what? It's like, are your kids really going to be traumatized by that line? Because my kids
wouldn't have been.
We're not talking about putting like hardcore porn at 1 in the afternoon.
All I'm saying is I can kind of understand if they'd have done that at 3:30 in the afternoon, but at 10:30 at night, what are you doing? What process goes through these people's minds that they think that while they're setting a film out at 10:30 at night, they can just take stuff out?
But the thing is, though,
Mike Jemmy says this is why. I'm sorry. One before that, he says I've never heard that line myself, so I'm pretty sure they took it out completely here.
But I'll put money they still left the scene in where the Dan Aykroyd character gets a blowjob from a ghost.
Yeah.
But that scene was okay. So don't talk to me about traumatizing kids.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, and that's also another thing too that I'm seeing online that I really, really don't like either, is that the definition of the word trauma is pretty much being bastardized to mean something that makes me uncomfortable.
Mhm.
You know,
Or
that
something I
people-
just don't like.
Right, exactly. Where it's like that people are saying that, oh,
Yep,
your
that was
artwork
silly.
traumatized me. And it's like, no, you got a reaction from my artwork. My artwork didn't traumatize you. Okay? It's
So
like,
deal
you
with it.
know, you're
Grow up.
you know, yeah, it's like, yeah. Your dad giving your mom a black eye, that traumatizes
That's
you.
trauma. Yeah,
Right.
You know,
trauma.
that's trauma, okay? You know, it's like dude coming back from Iraq, that's trauma. You looking at artwork that you didn't, you know, that you found out that you didn't like and made you all squicky. No, that's just you. That's a you problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And deal with your feelings. Learn to deal with your feelings about artwork you don't like. I have to do that all the time, just scrolling DeviantArt, you know, and seeing, you know, and just, you know, seeing artwork that it's like, you know what? I had to bleach my eyes. Hold on. Right?
No,
But-
that's
It would always-
the
would
true
always-
definition of art, though.
Yeah,
It would always
exactly.
be better if it
It's
was
words
drawn
or
properly
pictures
as well.
that inspire an emotion.
But even then, it's like, you know, it's like art. Yeah, it's like art is art, and it's like, and part of the art is your reaction to it or your lack of reaction to it. But that doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist because you got all in your feels about it.
Right? You were saying, Russ?
I just said it would be so much better if the stuff that they drew actually was drawn well. That would,
Well,
find
actually,
that-
that would make it more traumatizing.
yeah, I don't know if it'd be more traumatizing or not.
You know, I got some manga here. That's some well drawn
Some
trauma
well-drawn
inducing
shit, man.
And again, art is subjective. What we consider to be absolute crap shit
Mhm.
in a few years, we might go back and look at it with a different perspective and realize it was genius.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done that way too many times, more than I want to admit.
right.
You know, where
Yeah,
you
I
sit
mean,
there,
there's-
and, you know,
there's
you
no
look at
doubt.
somebody's art and just,
I mean,
yeah.
I am just surprised at how many people are so willing to completely infantilize themselves. That it's like that they're literally complaining about walking outside and everything not being nerfed for them. You know, I mean, I can't believe that. It's like, how do you function?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, look, every time I wake up in the morning, I am bombarded with things that I don't want to deal with, but gotta deal
And then
with
you
it.
say, for God's sake, stop throwing stuff at me.
Right, yeah, exactly. You know, why are you throwing stuff at me? You know, but but that's the thing. We're adults, right? We're supposed to be adults and handle this in adult manner. And someone is obviously not teaching the children how to be adults.
How to adult, yes.
You know?
Marvi says trauma has a name. It's called The Sound of Music. What a nightmare.
Yeah, we can all, I bet you, we can all name a movie or a book or something that we were exposed to as a child that we joke about, we were scarred for life by it. But at the same time, how empty would your life be without it? You know, I mean, it's like there's a lot of weird media out there that it's like I still can't believe I've seen. But at the same time, I cannot imagine it not being there and kind of like, you know, like as being part of the reference pool that I pull from. You know, and there are people who just want, no, empty mind, you know, smooth brain, empty mind. You know, it's like, no, you're the guys who are the weirdos, not
Don't
us.
listen to the smooth brain.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
One man's Martin Scorsese is another man's Ed Wood.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's like, look, you know, and the thing is though, Ed Wood, as ridiculous as he was, he has just as much cultural value for what he brought to the table, just as much as Scorsese. I'm not saying they're equal, you know, but they're part of that cultural pool we pull from.
Yes.
When we create.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pull the switch.
Yeah.
Pull the switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Anyway. Hey, folks in the chat, tell us about your favorite independent comic. What do you like?
Oh, yeah. So So aside from the obvious.
Oh, wait a minute. No. That's not what you want.
Yeah.
This is what you want.
Yeah, you see again, it's like dude, it's like I'm waiting for that trade. I had to bind all my issues together.
Smells like newsprint.
And I'm sure this is horrifying people as well, just by looking at this.
And I would turn the art to the camera, but I'm afraid that the spine would crack.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
That's how old this book is. It's about 70. What? So it's Arrow Comics. This was back in 87.
Yeah.
And Arrow, I don't think Arrow even put their logo on this thing.
Right? No. Well, there's
cover.
a tiny one on the cover.
There's one on the spine.
Right.
Right there.
But if there was an independent book that I have been obsessed with all these years to the point of trying to track down the artist to get a commission,
yeah, good luck.
Exactly.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Oh. It's Animal Mystic. This is by Greg Williams.
Oh, okay.
Greg Dark One Williams. No. We are not. Nobody is hunting down Guy Davis. He's too busy working for Guillermo del Toro. So this book I have been obsessed with for decades since it came out, and I just it's just I don't know. It's just like very like 70s van style airbrushing, which obviously this came out in the 80s, and it's just like I just love this stuff. Thank you, sir. And it's like, and he came out with several series. Luckily they were collected into trades. I know I have a couple of more hidden somewhere. But I tried finding, looking for him to get a commission, because that's kind of like he's one of my bucket list, aside from Joe Linsner and Arthur Adams. But this is like pure nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
And it's like this guy fell off the face of the earth. So I don't know. So this is a
you can't find him anywhere.
Yeah, no, can't find him. Can't get him to answer anything. So it's like, well, I guess that's just what it is,
Are you sure he's still alive?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. So that's
So I have the same problem with another favorite of mine. It's George Metzger, and every once in a while you'll hear that he's around doing something or somewhere around. I'm like, really? Where? What? Where? I can never find him. I would love to track him down sometime.
Yeah, the second one. Yeah,
how much I enjoyed his stuff.
What I liked about him was that he wasn't afraid to play around with his style.
Yeah.
So this second book is like his style is completely different than obviously the airbrushed, the over airbrushed work from the first volume. So it was it was just like I couldn't get enough of this guy. And and he kept saying for a while how he was putting out another book, and he would put up teaser artwork, and I'd be sitting there like the guy's like, yeah, take my money, and and then just he just disappeared. So yeah,
you never know, he might resurface at any time.
Probably that's what I'm waiting for. So I could be like whack-a-mole.
Let's hope he's doing well. Yeah.
My library unfortunately is full of lots of mainstream comics because I loved superhero comics. But the of all the independents that I have bought, there's really only one. The
OG.
The OG, and I remember buying. I have some floppies up here. I've got the collected stuff, but I have the floppies up there, and this is not what I like. It just isn't. It isn't the right style. It doesn't read the same. It's just, and yet I absolutely adored this stuff when it came out.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how some things like it's completely out of your wheelhouse. You're not into it, but boom, it just.
But it absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And I've even got some of the Archie stuff as well when they were Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles rather than Ninja Turtles. Because back in the day, ninja was a word that people thought might be a little upsetting. It's a trigger word,
especially over in the United Kingdom.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't put a nunchucker in a sentence. But now it all came back and everything's ninja again now. But those books they nailed it for me.
Did
And
the,
part
did
of
the
it
turtles
was-
always carry their weapons with them in your
yeah,
books
they've always
over there?
yeah, they've got them in their. They've always got them in their holsters, you know, on their
Ah.
backs or on in their the sides they've got in their belts and stuff. So yeah,
They were never really using them, or what?
yeah, they used them. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was just the word ninja,
Just
as
no.
if that
Yeah,
would make
so
a
yeah,
difference.
so just to show everybody that this is not a new thing. It's
Yeah.
just exacerbated because of social media. But yeah, this
Twitter.
is absolutely not. Yeah, mostly.
Yeah,
But this is absolutely not a new thing.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not, and it's. But I still think that so many things could be solved if there was more attention given to all ages books.
Mhm.
I just think it could solve a whole bunch of problems. Just to get back to making those books. I mean, I've been fortunate to be involved in 2 sets of book. I was doing Ben 10, and I also did Doctor Who. Not as much that Ben 10 was aimed a little bit younger, but there was never any, as I've mentioned before many times, there was, from all the writers that I worked with on those books, there was never any talking down to the kids. So
Yeah.
it by its very nature, it was all ages.
Right.
Simply because he didn't talk down to the kids. Kids had a proper vocabulary, had a proper story structure. You know,
Yeah.
it didn't treat you like an idiot. It let you work your way
Yeah,
through the
I
story.
don't know where that comes from. You
I
know, when
don't know
people
either.
think that kids are just like the stupidest
Sure.
things on earth. You know?
Yeah, I know.
It's like,
I know.
I really don't understand, because it's like, have you been around kids?
I
You
think a
know?
lot of that sprung out of
know what
the.
they're doing.
A lot of
Those
that
little
sprung
shits
out of
will
the.
take your knees out. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like-
A lot of that sprung out of the Saturday morning mentality, and again, the
Yeah.
comics were aimed at kiddies. So in the Disney during the 60s and early 70s
Right.
had the same problem. They were labeled as kiddie material and weren't able to sell very well until they started Touchstone Studios to do movies
Right,
for
yeah.
an older audience.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why Black Hole never picked up the way that it did. That was one of the
That
last
is
films.
such an interesting movie too.
they-
I like
Yeah.
that film. There's lots
Yeah.
of really weird concepts in that film.
Uh-huh. I was that was like one of the first things we watched when we got Disney Plus, because it's like, oh, the black hole. And
Yeah.
I was like amazed at how yeah, it's like just strangely really, and it's a slow movie.
Oh,
Right.
it
But
is.
there's just it's just conceptually it's so entertaining.
And then right at the end
Right.
when sort of Maximilian and
yeah.
and the
Wow.
bad guys seem to be sort of combined in
Yeah.
the black hole. It's like, wow, that's got part 2 written all over it. Come on. What-
Yeah, they
Why
broke
didn't we
into
get
a
that film?
new universe and everything. And
Yeah, they could have done
anything
anything,
after
and
that.
he could have been chasing them across the galaxy.
Uh-huh.
In this new universe, in this sort of molded version of himself. So I'm just writing scripts in my
yeah.
head right now.
Yeah.
That was a great film. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And it hit the mark after, because that was post Star Wars, post Close Encounters. Yeah.
And I thought that it just did something really, really different.
Yeah, it wasn't a space battle. But there was lots of space stuff.
Right, but it was like dark and kind of
for
like
Disney, it was very dark. For
exactly,
Disney.
yeah.
It was
very
their
dark
attempt,
for Disney.
wasn't it, to
Yeah.
get out of the mold? So,
Right during that period, they did a whole series of dark films, Escape from Witch Mountain, and something wicked this way comes. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah.
And that's also very artistic.
But they were on their game. They
hardly
were
ever
still,
see it anymore.
They were still all ages productions.
Right.
There was still stuff that you could, like Goosebumps. They were all stuff that you could sit down and
yeah.
enjoy,
Uh-huh.
without them being over the line,
Yeah.
but still a bit scary. I mean,
Yeah.
what? All ages. Come on.
Yeah.
Where is that? Everybody can sit down and read it or watch it or whatever.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned was it R.L. Stein, the guy who did Goosebumps, because he always gets crap for his books.
Yeah.
Because it's like, he says that people could say, oh, what's the moral of your stories? What's the moral of your stories? And he goes, no, the only moral in my stories is run faster.
Yeah, run faster than the person next to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
you don't have to have a moral in every story.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can just be a story. You don't
Be
have to make a point.
Yeah.
The real moral is be entertaining. Be entertaining to kids, make a lot of money, and then there's your moral for you.
I'm very keen on
do it again.
On there being concepts and even more, some moral aspects to stories in all ages story. I think it's good to have those stories, but you don't have to have them. You can just be entertaining.
Right. Yeah.
There's
nothing wrong with that either. Yeah.
It's okay to just entertain. I'm here in the indie space, but I'd work for any company that had a good IP that was prepared to make all ages comics again, to just do that kind of thing, because I'm passionate about that. I have been since I got the opportunity to work on Doctor Who with those great writers, and there isn't enough of it. There just isn't. That's why I did my book, All Ages. There isn't enough of it. You should be able to put a book down. Not every book, there are age ranges, and there's keep them up on the top shelf. But you should be able to put down any of the. The reason I don't like current corporate comics is because they seem to be written for people between the ages of 25 and 45.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But they're not marketed to any of the people that were buying those comics. So it's like, well, are you writing these stories for kids? Because I guarantee you, kids of 10 years old, female, male, whatever they might be, aren't into, I don't know, galas. Sorry, but they're not. They want action. They want fun. They want to be entertained. Okay.
If I want to read posts on Tumblr, I go to Tumblr.
Exactly. but it's I'm really important. Comics are for everyone. Every kind of comic for every kind of person. Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
But right to your market. Make sure you entertain people, whatever that might be. Be on point. And are Marvel comics, I'm picking out Marvel, but are Marvel comics for kids or are they for adults?
Because even they don't know.
We didn't write these books for you.
No,
right.
Exactly,
yeah. So who are you writing this? It's like I'm cool with that, but it's like, who are you writing this?
I'm cool with any sexuality, any demographic, okay? But I don't want to talk to my 10-year-old, okay, about sexuality and stuff. Okay, I personally just think they're too young for it there, and it doesn't matter what sort of demographic we're talking about, any of it. I just want them to be entertained. I want to be out playing football, go out in the park, reading comic books, like playing with their friends, and treating each other decently. That's my core aspect as a parent. Yeah. So when I buy a comic for them, if I get to buy a comic for them, the last thing I want is like serious stuff like that. I just don't. There was apparently there was something going off this week about somebody being killed. Like serial killer kind of stuff, and it's like, I don't want that in a comic for my kids either. It's just, okay, once you're like 13, 14, 15, you're looking for the darker stuff, like, hey, okay, but kids stuff. And then of course what happens is it gets, oh, let's just write for kids. No. You want all ages stuff so that people can enjoy it together. Okay, but that does mean that you write appropriately, and I just think it's so much of mainstream has kind of lost its way on that aspect. I just think we're losing massive markets of next generation.
Yeah,
come and read a comic book.
I'm hearing people saying that there are people who don't even know what a comic book is.
I know, that's just so sad.
I'm finding that more and more as we go on, that folks don't know what a real definition of a comic is. Yeah. A lot of them still think that it's something that grandma grandpa had, that was 25 cents. So that's why you get such a blowback on the comic prices. They don't look at it as art. They look at it from their standpoint of nostalgia.
Yeah, I don't know how long I've got left, but as long as I've got left, I am going to be trying to make all ages comics.
Kicking and screaming.
Kicking and screaming. Get out there and read a comic. Right. Read a comic. Read it to your kids. kids read comics, because it's the best storytelling medium, and they're incredibly educational just by the very nature of the way they are built.
And
The audio,
it's not just,
the visual and word stimulation between the two of them.
Right.
And it's not just kids either, because one thing I found out in the 10 years of doing Flint comics and making it free to readers every month is that everybody loves comics.
Yeah.
Almost everybody. If you have a sense of humor, you're going to love comics. If you have a sense of adventure, you're going to love adventure comics, and that there's plenty of comics out there. It just has to become accessible to people to be able to pick it up and for it to become the norm.
Yeah.
And when I first put the comic paper out there, it didn't it moved, but it didn't move as well as it did 2 or 3 years later once people got into the habit and started looking for the book every month and started picking it up every month and then calling and harassing me, wondering why the book was a day late. That kind of thing. You really get a sense that you, once you build that audience, it's up to you to keep that audience and to keep them entertained, or they will go elsewhere. And comics are now back at square one, where they have to generate that audience, find that audience, build that audience, then keep that audience in order for it to build up. And that's going to take the big key, I think, is accessibility. That's going to take being out there, not just in the comic shops, but everywhere.
Yeah.
And available.
I mean, and also to kind of like to be the converse of what Russ was talking about, like his whole thing is all ages comics. For me, on a interview that I had with Meredith and Nita on their show, we were talking about like I was pretty much talking about how, especially when it comes to my book Eagle Raven, shameless plug. That I had at the beginning, I had a little bit of problem, like trying to figure out like how I was going to market this book and what language I was going to use to market it. Because when I thought that initially it might have been like maybe YA, young adult, would have been like a good marketing term, I came to the realization that I'm an adult making comics for other adults. And I'm not interested actually in entertaining people's children. That it's like that by issue 7, I'm slapping mature readers on this book. And of course, it's like it kind of makes me wonder, should I've done that from the very beginning, even though it's kind of tame in those first several issues, but then it ramps up at issue 7. But the thing is, though, it's like, so I pretty much was very comfortable with the idea that I'm an adult making comics for other adults. I'm not interested in entertaining your children. If you want to buy this for your child, it's your responsibility to look it over and go through it. It's the reason why I have the first 5 issues online, because it kind of like hints as to what's coming. And, and you have to decide from there whether this is appropriate for your kid. It's in the end, it's not up to me to know all the individual nuances of every child's need, and even every adult's need. It's like, look, this is what it is. This is the synopsis. It goes mature readers on by issue 7. That everything else is up to you. As to whether, and that doesn't make me a deviant for that.
No,
it's like, that's the thing. It's like, just because I don't want to entertain your kids doesn't mean that I'm some kind of deviant for that.
But again, that's down to the misperception of comics as a medium, as an entertainment medium, as a storytelling medium.
Right.
No one would say, oh, this Carl Grissom novel, it's disgusting because my kids can't read it. Or no one would say the latest Bourne movie is not for children. It's like, no, you're right. It's not for kids.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that all films are not for kids.
Right. Exactly. And it does. Yeah. And I resent the idea that everything has to be catered to the idea of, a kid might pick this up.
Yeah. No, definitely
as
not.
Someone who did, adult art, who still does adult artwork, and for the longest time was like constantly being told how I'm ruining the fandom because of my artwork. It's like, look, it's like, what yeah, it's a furry fandom thing. Yeah, because I did porn, I was somehow ruining an entire fandom, and I'm like going, look, your shit was broken when I got here, so I don't know what you're talking about.
These people have never been to a furry convention.
Yeah, and
No.
the thing is, though, and they were literally using the argument, well, what if someone buys your thing and then they leave it out and a kid finds it? And I go, well, that has nothing to do with me. Once it's out of my hands, I have no control over where it goes. My responsibility is making sure that I sell it to an adult.
No, but we see this kind of attitude
Yeah.
online all the time, don't we? Somebody has an opinion, and you might happen to. I mean, we know this specifically in comics.
Yeah.
I'll go and buy a comic book from someone,
Right.
or I'll be on a stream with someone. Okay, and because that someone might have said something that some people might not like,
Right.
suddenly I'm the same as that person.
Yeah, exactly.
It's guilt by association.
Yeah.
And that's effectively what that comic book thing, what
Right.
you've just said is, you've made a comic book, some other idiot has left it out for a kid to find, and suddenly you're to blame.
Yeah.
No, it's the idiot that left it out. Okay.
Right.
It's not, you know, and it's the same if I go stream with someone, or if I like someone's book, okay,
Right.
and I buy that book, but that person has been a bit of an idiot,
Right.
it doesn't make me an idiot.
Right.
Okay, it just it's free will.
Right.
Just
I mean,
deal with it.
It's the whole thing. Like to be really blatant about it. Like, one of my favorite movies is Rosemary's Baby. It's like, look, that being my favorite movie does not mean that I condone Roman Polanski raping a 13-year-old.
No, exactly.
You know,
The guy's
that
a
has
scumbag,
nothing
but-
to do with me. Yes, he's a
Yeah.
scumbag, but I still enjoy his movie.
Yeah, but that
I
art
know
has
that.
been made. Yeah, that
Yeah.
art has been made, and
Yeah.
and I do understand that there are
Yeah.
times when you separate the art from the artist, and it is difficult. I do appreciate that. It's not as cut and dried as just saying art and artist must be separated.
Critical
It's not
Blast
that.
says
Oh yeah, really? Yeah, you
Wait,
would
you-
think.
you'd ruin furry fandom with porn. I thought that made the furry
Yeah.
fandom.
But
Not really.
But at the same time, it is a good way to approach art. It you know, it does have its limits, because you know, there will always be someone that you go, whoa, back
Right.
the truck up. I don't think I can watch that film anymore.
Right,
Or I
yeah.
don't think I can. I understand it, but it's where your line is, and it's
Yeah.
exactly what you were saying earlier about people being traumatized because they don't like something.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
Like they're
suddenly,
Yeah.
you must denigrate an artist simply because you don't like an opinion,
right.
and
Well,
that's where it's become way out of whack.
Like this was pretty much the sum of my career, because I had this on the table. They thought this was the same thing.
Well, no, it's two different books.
It's two different books, but no, because it's like you were responsible for both of them. They're the exact same thing. Like brain worms. You have brain worms. You know? But
You
this is
can't
a very
think
common
properly.
thing. Yeah, this is a very common thing, that it's like, you know, like, how many people know that Carl Barks did a lot of duck erotica? He has an entire harem series, you know, of paintings. He did. He did. He look it up. You know, this Mr. Uncle Scrooge, you know, was doing furry porn before it had a name.
On with the other ducks.
And Critical Blast, it didn't make furry fandom. Furry fandom was around before that and just got perverted by the perverts
Well, yeah.
into a more adult thing, and then that got taken over by the furry cons and everybody dressing up in furry outfits and doing furry things. Yeah,
Saw the Polaroids.
Perverted things. Yes.
Yeah.
We
Although
had
now-
coined the pervert line back in the late 80s when everybody kept asking Sue Van Camp and I, who created Tales from the Universe together, to do naked versions of our characters.
Yeah.
I said, what are you, some sort of pervert?
Yes. That's exactly. You know, I have, you know, yeah.
People are strange.
Yeah.
But you know, it's okay.
Yeah, it is. But you know what?
Yeah.
You know what it is? Yeah, it is okay. That's
It's
the
okay.
thing. It's like, you know, because like, look, I have people who commission me for Tall Tales porn all the time, and that's completely fine. You know, it's when it's like the people just can't see the separation between the two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or it's like, you know, I have someone coming up the table and they see like a certain sexy cover and they automatically think the whole thing is porn. And it's like they're not even looking through it. They're just basing it on whatever nonsense is in their heads.
Well, again, those are those blinders and the easy
Yeah.
pigeonholing and that kind of
You
thing.
know, because
some of the
it's
covers
comics.
that you see, some of the covers that you see on mainstream comics.
Really.
You know, and it's like, what? Right. So is that what's inside?
Right. Yeah.
You know. No, it's not fair.
I mean, really. I mean, it's like Greg Land was freaking tracing actual pornography for the Fantastic Four.
Sure.
And this, you know, I mean, come on, really? But I'm the problem.
You're going to get dynamic, idealistic body styles. That's where you go. That's
it wasn't really the style. It wasn't really the body types.
Yeah. You want to learn how to draw superheroic women? You go to a strip club and you watch those the dancers climb poles. So you're never going to get anybody in more of a fit shape acrobatically, other than gymnasts.
Dude, you know? The upper body strength. Look, the upper body strength required. I mean, look, you better toss 20s onto that stage just for that upper body strength.
I'm going to tell my wife that. Thank you. I need to go to a strip club. It's part of my work. It's
part of the research. Yeah,
that's it. It's called doing research for us. It works.
It's tax deductible. I can do this.
No, not for us though, because we can't get the dancers to give us receipts.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Have the receipts.
Okay, that's good.
It's cash only.
Cash only.
Yeah.
I can do that. We can do that. I mean, I can make my own receipts. I mean, you shouldn't, like not fraudulent, but like as long as you've spent the money, it's okay.
Here's a 20 thanks for those lab days to sign this receipt.
Yes, can you sign? Yes, like modeling services.
What are you doing, cats?
Critical blast fervor. I know a new word now. Yes.
We're sorry.
Back in the 80s. Russ has just lost his camera to cats.
Lost my camera to...
That's how it works.
Earthquake in Britain. Earthquake in Britain right now.
Okay. Oh no, it's
You're
cat
seeing
cam.
it here first.
Cat cam.
There he is. Cat cam.
Yeah.
Oh, he's ashamed. Now he wants some loving. Like, will you pet me?
Yeah. There we go.
But like I said, it's like just being able to do the work that we do is a privilege, because holy crap, the minefield that we have to go through.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's bonkers.
To be where we are right now, in this point, especially for an alternative and independent producer. It's a nice sweet spot that we absolutely need to take advantage of. Mm-hmm. Not just through crowdfunding, but through promoting our own work, to getting our work out there in different sources, as many as possible. So it's important to get that done in order for this art form to survive.
Mm-hmm.
If you like your funny books, you're going to have to promote your funny books.
Well, that's true too. That's a whole that's a whole other thing too, because it's like we're the only ones here. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate behind us with an advertising budget in the millions. It's like,
if only they did.
Huh?
If only they did advertise.
Well, it's for the movies day.
Yeah. But it would make it a lot easier if the bigger companies did advertise that comics existed. That would be helpful. It would be helpful to everyone, not just them, but to the whole industry.
Yeah,
and of course, you grow the industry, you grow your market. I
think
there goes your cat again.
Yeah, I think the only time I've seen that happen was when the Michael Keaton Batman came out.
Yeah,
I think that was like the only time that
And then there was such a stretch there between films, and then Batman Returns comes out, and it's so adult because it's got Catwoman in it and an ugly, ugly penguin.
But that's my favorite. That's my favorite of the trilogy, though.
Well, I'm not.
Well, that's the most bent out of all of them, because Burton said, "Oh, we put it in a separate universe. I'll really put it in a separate universe."
Yeah, I really, really loved those first two Batman films. I have to say, I did. And the way they were filmed like an over-the-top comic book.
Yeah,
I loved them. I absolutely, and I still love them to today. With the Ultimates turned up in Marvel, the Marvel films turned up, and there had to be seams in the costume. There had to be belt buckles and stuff. It had to look like it worked in a real world. And do you know what? Like I said before, I loved the Marvel Universe films, the MCU films. I thought the Ultimates as a comic book collection were brilliant. Okay, I loved all that. Okay, but it doesn't take away from the spandex.
No.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't. It's like
you need the spandex. You need the ridiculous nature of these things.
You'd have thought Marvel would have learned that from New Universe.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it works, and don't always add. That's my personal opinion. Is what is Marvel's biggest mistake was not to add but to change. They should have just added. Just add all the time. You've got the opportunity there, and it's not just about the content. It's about the markets. Add. Don't change. Add. And like the direct market had this thing going on where that was like the only game in town, and it shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
It was easy to go back. It can't be the way it used to be. I understand newsstand can't be the way that it used to be, but you can still get books back into ordinary shops, not just your average shop. Even if all we did was put the trade paperbacks out there, just get them out there, get comics out there.
Yep. Not only that, but there has to be another accessible, I think there needs to be a more accessible form to make it almost like an impulse item in a way. That's one of the things that really attracted me to the 2000 ADs, is that initially they were newsprint, they were raw, they were just bare, no real special cover. They were just there on the newsstands, and you could just see them, because over here we have newsstand racks at the grocery store that used to hold National Enquirer and Weekly World News. Those are the exact same size. I kept looking at the 2000 books and looking at those racks at the grocery store going, man, 2000 ought to be here. It ought to be right there in that stand, along with a romance comic and a sports comic, aimed at a wide variety of audience, but really easily accessible. Couple bucks, you're in line, you just grab it and put it.
That's what Alterna is doing so well. It's just a pity that they can't get into more outlets, because they're just like $2 a comic.
Yeah, they need to stretch out. They need to stretch out more, and I think they might. I think they might be stuck in a format problem where they have to have they have to look like a comic in their mind. They have to fit a bag. They have to fit a board, and they don't have to. We could be any size or anything that's fashion or that's feasible in order to get it in your hands, in order to be read.
Well, also not for nothing too. It also has a lot. Also, it could have a lot to do with the fact that a lot of these, like larger, more unusual retailers for comics, like like Walmart and whatnot, they're returnable. And there are plenty of companies who've made that pact with the devil and almost collapsed because of it. All because of returnability. And
again, that was part of Peter's problems, because he bucked into the old system where he had to take returns.
So it's like, I understand why, he's probably not as
he has played with different formats in the past, though. He's done anthology books in different sizes and played with different things, but now he seems to be, and he even did the $4.99 books, which I thought were brilliant, and I wish he had done more of 80 pages for $5.
I mean, because it's like, because there really does come a point. there really does come a point where it's like you kind of have to kind of pull yourself back a bit. You can't be as ambitious as you want to be, because the market just won't allow it.
Well, you take you have to be able to take a monetary hit, especially if you're playing with a different format. That Archie did those Marvel digests for a year and a half. I wish they'd have kept them going, but I could see where they were running into problems reproducing the slick artwork, the photoshopped artwork on newsprint, and having that soak the colors in and turn dull and dark. But the older Marvel material just popped on that, and the big problem with that is that they were shrunk down so small, they were difficult to read. You almost had to have a magnifying glass in order to read it. But if you go back and you look at like the old Disney comic digests that were out for a while, they would take pages and split them up into different, or they would take comic pages and split them up into multiple pages and large panels and add dialogue, that kind of thing, or move the dialogue balloon around so that they could blow up the lettering. It only take a little bit of effort, but it's also effort that these mainstream guys just don't want to do for whatever reason. They don't want to pay somebody to actually do quality work.
Right. They don't want to do an actual independent comics. Like people like us, we literally don't have the resources.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think what they are is that they're in a spiral. They're in a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, and that happened once Diamond became the main distributor for the direct market.
As your market shrinks, you start putting, but at least in the minds of the bean counters that were in charge of all this over the past 30 years, you put less money into advertising and getting your ideas out there, and so it shrinks. It just because fewer people are seeing it, fewer people are buying it, and then because fewer people are buying it, they start restricting their budgets, and it just that's the way it works.
Is that your kitten constantly knocking the camera?
Yes,
that is so funny.
There's two of them.
Oi.
But that's also been a problem with comics, that back when they were actually concerned about making money, they would always rely on what the previous person made money on. And you'd see a lot of that with, like, when Alien came out, all of a sudden there were 5 or 6 different of the same looking type of alien all over comics, the Brood and that kind of thing. Yeah, go at it. Yeah. Be careful.
Everything
don't bite that cord too hard.
That's true. Yeah.
You might be in for a surprise.
The Destructor has arrived.
The Destroyer of Worlds.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, it becomes a group think.
Critical Blast says the DC Comics Blue Ribbon Digest were my favorite. Yeah. And a lot of that stuff, I was talking with Jason Moore the other day, who stumbled across the Sugar and Spike Digest. And because Mayer made that artwork so accessible and the lettering so large, when you shrunk it down to digest size, it was readable. And some of those books are incredible. But some other stuff, when they take that and the lettering is too small to begin with and shrink it down to digest size, it completely loses it unless you stretch it out. I've got a number of old paperback books that they used to do that too, even in black and white. They would take Marvel and DC stories and break them down into tiers and have each tier even sideways and have it readable. Some of the old Mad comic books were like that, done in paperback size in that format. Well, the Mads were easy also because they were 3 tiers always, so that they could take a tier and put it on as a page of a paperback book sideways. So you'd open the book, you don't open the book like this and read it.
Right. No, it's funny that you mentioned the lettering, because like that's one of the things that I always do when I'm like testing out new lettering is to make sure that it's readable at digest size.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because we've experimented. Well, it's not experimented. Sometimes we were forced into certain sizes because that's all, it's cheaper to print a digest size than a comic book size.
Yeah.
So, so I wanted to make sure that no matter what size I worked in, that the text was always readable. So I'm not sitting there redoing work because, now we're in a different format.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then what's funny is that then it's like when we printed at a larger size, and because, the text still worked at that size, I got a lot of compliments for making my my lettering accessible to people with vision issues.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yep. I'm glad this is blowing up because I can't see very well.
Yeah, exactly. Even at digest size, I got compliments. It was like, oh, thank you for making the text so large that I could read it.
Yeah, that was one complaint I had with Flint Comics when I was taking, because I would take like a Flash Gordon strip and put 4 strips on a page. That sometimes that lettering, if it's not right, would get incredibly small, and almost unreadable. You'd almost have to have a magnifying glass on some of that stuff. So.
Yeah. Oh, and just like completely like kind of related, but completely unrelated to the general topic. I got like if you do your lettering in Illustrator and you save your comic as a PDF, the Acrobat can actually read your comic out loud. Yeah, because I got another compliment from somebody with vision issues saying that they were able to read my comic through their audio reader.
Wow.
so just something for everybody to consider.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And he thanked me for that, for making my comic accessible.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll keep doing what I'm doing then. I didn't even know he could do that.
Yeah, Critical says DC would do the 10 best stories of the year. They couldn't do that now because they don't even tell 10 stories or 10 different stories in a year anymore.
Yeah, now it's just like it's all like events, right?
Yeah.
It's like they're all like there is no one story anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I got rid of them.
Uh-oh.
Oh, so this is so there we go. Literally wrangling cats.
Wrangling. Yeah. Herding cats.
Herding cats.
Herding, yes.
Herding.
Uh-huh.
Herding. Oh dear.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
But yeah, there's a lot of great
Sorry.
old independents out there. If you, again, like we keep saying, if you take a couple of minutes out or even an hour or two and scour your old retailers, back issue boxes or their graphic novel boxes and find that unusual book. You've got like Nexus. I got a copy of Nexus here from First Comics.
Got my version.
But, in fact, this was sitting in a shed so long it's waterlogged. I still can't get rid of it. And there's no way I'm gonna pass on this. It's got Steve Rude in black and white and gray. Just beautiful work.
It's got good work. Lovely.
Yeah.
Work,
What comic do you have that you remember seeing?
It's a great old book, Miss Tree, detective story.
Oh, I think JD was reading another collection of
Terry
that
Beatty. Yeah,
recently.
I think they just redid the a set of them. Yeah, Terry Beatty, Max Allan Collins on that. Became a big detective story novelist.
What book, Daphne?
Oh, like what book that it's like that you've seen as individual issues that you know for a fact, probably by now, obviously, because it's been so long, that you're never that actually makes you upset that you're never going to see it in a trade paperback, like collected at all.
Oh.
Which book haunts you? Which obscure indie comic haunts you?
Oh, obscure indie comic.
Yeah,
I'm probably the wrong person to ask that.
I'm thinking even obscure Marvel comic. Archie Goodwin did a series, had his own universe for a little while that you'll never see collected. Had Dr. Zero, Powerhouse, and St. George. That all of that's great reading. Can't find it anymore, and that might as well have been an alternative comic,
right? Because there used to be, I think it was Blackthorn came out with a book called The Crow of the Bear Clan.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like that book kind of haunts me at that. I know that it will never ever see a collected trade. And there was like
never say never.
Well, never say never,
You
true.
know?
But I think after like 30 years,
we're looking at putting Anniverse together.
Right, but you know,
you never know.
You never know. Right? Yeah, but what are the chances we'll get a Realm? You know, because we'll get a release of the Realm.
Realm has been in print in different volumes for a while. It's just that I'm not sure exactly how Caliber is handling that currently.
Right.
I would love to take it on and color it, like I've said before, because I think that if somebody with a good anime coloring style on that would just pop that art like there's no tomorrow and make it look incredible.
Because I still think that work holds up. Even despite what Guy Davis may think about it,
Well, he's not proud of it because he feels he's gone on and done that was a previous stage in his life when he was drawing a lot with a lot of different influences in how he draws today. But you don't see Baker Street out there very much.
That's
either,
true. Yeah,
and Baker Street's a work of art. That's an amazing piece. Even the marquee.
Right.
That I think Oni has, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure how Guy is treating that, or if they even care if it gets collected anymore. A lot of his material was classic. Even over at DC, you don't see the Sandman Mystery Theater stuff collected at all.
Right. Yeah.
You
And
know?
it's just, that's also something that we also have to consider whenever we see independent comics is like, one, not only is this going to survive, but I mean, is this going to have a longevity I that I can afford to kind of wait now and pick it up later?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, it's like,
Well, a lot of them had a hard time surviving to get to the
Yeah.
next issue. That's part of the stigma that the retailers have against alternative and independent books.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's even going to be an issue 2.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, because even when I do my campaigns on Kickstarter, I have to put a section there, like kind of saying how far along in the series I'm in,
Yeah.
just so people understand. It's like, there's more coming.
But Godot, that
God.
gun for hire.
Oh my God, Phil
Phil
Foglio,
Foglio.
right? Yeah,
Beautiful stuff. Fantastic. Funny stuff. Great.
right,
Great, enjoyable stuff. Nobody talks about this anymore.
right.
When's the last time you had anybody talk about Buck Godot or the Xenophile, even the Xenophile adult material that
Right.
Foglio's did for a long time?
You know,
Dark
and-
Tangent that he did with somebody else that should have always been finished and never got done.
Like this, I think this is the oddest piece in my collection, Vixen's Keep. I mean, this is like furry fandom classic work. It's it's very 80s. And unfortunately the person who did this passed a while ago, so it's like I have to hold on to this copy because this is probably the only thing. This is probably the only copy I could find as well. Like there was another book.
I've never heard of it because then I would be wondering about Varsel's Vixens.
Right. I mean,
them stepping on that copyright.
Oh, Vixen's Keep? I mean,
Yeah.
Vixen is just a generic word, you know?
Well, there's a Vixen in DC too, so.
Yeah. you guys can all duke it out if you want,
No. I'd be interested in reading it to see how close the influence is.
I mean, it's just like very,
especially with it being a funny animal book. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was another book in that was big in furry fandom called Xanadu. And again, the artist recently passed. Yeah, she recently passed too.
Yeah.
And again, that's probably, it's like I got rid of all my trades because I thought, oh yeah, I could just pick it up later. I don't know why I got rid of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, oh great, I'm never gonna find these books again. Because like I said, she's passed. I don't know who's taking care of the artwork or whatnot, or
if
who
anybody
has it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And probably it's never gonna see print again.
Yep.
And that's kind of like the sad thing with independent comics that it's like that's actually something we have to think about when we find things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So buy our comics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So buy it now, get in now.
Yep.
Because you never know.
Yeah.
Critical Blast says Zandu and Shanda the Panda.
Shanda the Panda. Yeah.
Yep. Buck Godot, been waiting for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, very funny. Critical. Yeah, don't be too sure. I know of some things that are coming out soon. Crowdfunded omnibuses and new adventures. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
New adventures.
New adventures.
Yeah.
After Life with Archie, that doesn't count. Not even to 10. I'm using Procreate. I know. Maybe a couple of months I'll be able to have Clip Studio.
Oh, it might be on sale. Yeah, it's like I think 4th of July, and I think Thanksgiving. They use Clip Studio Paint. Usually has its 50% off sale.
Yeah.
So yeah, never pay full price.
I picked up a copy of it at the last their last sale I had. I've still only opened it like 3 times.
Right. Yeah.
I got to get back. I got to cut some time and start learning how to color in it because I hear it's real easy to do.
I also it's like I would have to try it out too because I hear that like their patterns and their reference material that they have in there, all the assets are like really, really interesting to use and experiment with. So
yeah, Blast says, or Critical Blast says, dollar bins are fun. Ex-Mutants, Steve Warren's Survivors. That's a title I haven't thought about in a long time. Southern Knights, Justice Machine. I know Justice Machine is Mike Gustovich. I'm pretty sure he's really close to restarting that title. So and you never know. This stuff from the 80s is all coming back because the market is opening up again, especially with crowdfunding. I actually think that I could break even doing a Tales from the Anniversary omnibus now.
Oh
So,
yeah, I think so too.
you know, and there's interest for it out there, and enough people that have actually asked to do stories. So we'll probably reprint all of the old stuff and have 3 or 4 other, you know, little new and original stories in there. I'll be able to make notes on how I had planned to end stuff, or how Sue and I, or Sue, Jason, and myself had planned to end things, and it'd be good.
Right. Yeah, because every time I post up like a mischievous piece, I have people coming out of the woodwork going, "Oh my God, it's Anniversary! I remember this," and blah blah blah, and you know. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they're out there. They're out there.
That's like I said. I when I was doing the paper, I reprinted some mischievous. I've got a Sue Van Camp mischievous story nobody's seen except for around here.
Wow.
That mischievous and Ganda story that will be in the omnibus. So
that's cool. That's cool.
Along with we got a whole ton of production art that nobody has seen, a pre-production art, false starts and oddball stories placed here and there. Because there was a while when I was freelancing, I was offering Anniversary stories around, or having them done, or there's a lot of stuff to be collected out there. It's going to be a big book.
That's cool. That's cool, because it's like, you know, just get everything out in one volume. So
well, plus now I go back and I look at these characters and I'm like, man, we really missed an opportunity to brand and merchandise the hell out of these characters, because there's a lot of real original looks to a lot of these stuff, you know, Faltress and Hagedorn and Bajan and all of those guys are there's a lot of potential there for toys.
But the thing is, though, I think that's on
the bucket list. Now. It's on the bucket list. Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think it's a lot easier now, though, to do that kind of stuff.
That, and I've got a team of funny animal superheroes I want to do really bad. I got to trademark some stuff, I think. The barnyard of the barn of justice. Yeah.
Oh,
be fun. All right, everybody, we are doing the Sunday Funnies for the 4th of July, 2021. We're talking about independent comics for the most part. The conversation has strayed here and there, but most of it is independent talk. Yeah. You wonder where Buck Godot, or here's another book I really enjoyed while it was out. It's Galaxian, which was a science fiction story.
Oh yeah.
Remember that? Done with almost an anime look to it. Like Tara Talan, I believe. Her name was. Always wondered what happened to that. That also needs a collection.
That's the early stuff.
That's American manga influence on that. Yeah.
You know, right before it was like it was still considered, you know, it's like, oh, you're not Japanese, so you can't draw that way. You know, that type of
books like Albedo. That were out there, just really, really deep, almost at times a hard and dry read, but very fascinating, almost like 2001 with funny animals.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good descriptor for it. Because I remember
very military. Steve Galassi, I think the guy's name was very military minded, and brought a lot of that to Albedo.
Yeah, he was into Civil War reenactment for a while. Yeah. So I guess he brought that that
was another side discussion that I had fleetingly online, because sometimes you just can't talk to people. But there was a book out by Will Shetterly for a while that was amazing, called Captain Confederacy, and you won't see that reprinted,
which
anymore. And that had to do with the North and South dividing, and during the Civil War, and the South creates a propaganda television character that this guy portrays, and then realizes all about the horrors of slavery, you know, even though he grew up with it.
But that sounds like it's the whole thing where it's like you can't even talk about something in the context of what you're talking about, because just mentioning it is trauma.
Nuance has been destroyed.
Exactly. You know,
you get to create a story that is harrowing and obviously illustrative of a bad moment in time, or a bad moment in the human species, cannot be shown because it might upset someone. Instead of educating people
Right.
and reminding them not to make the same mistakes.
Well,
again.
you don't want
Exactly.
to, right?
Yep.
You don't want to upset the chicken cutlets. It's like that's what it is.
Which is exactly why something like Mouse wouldn't be
Yeah,
done.
I agree.
Because it would
I agree
upset
too.
too many people. It's like,
Yeah.
well, why?
I'm
It's
not
telling
sure
a
because
a fantastic.
it's got such a historical anchor to it, though.
Yeah,
Well,
but it's
I don't
like,
know how
Just
much
look
of
at the
a
world
stir
at
it
the
would make.
moment.
Well, yeah, the world at the moment would. But
yeah, it's like,
I think
talking about
the world at the
Holocaust would
moment
upset
really
people.
needs to be reminded what the true meaning of that N word is. And the fact that you go around and you blame or you pigeonhole somebody who doesn't think the same way as you do politically as someone with that N word, and where it really means, and it's about an entirely different level of inhumanity.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the people who kept saying that that chicken cutlet who said that when I posted up the mischievous cover, that looks really problematic, and it's like, bitch, you look, you don't even know what the word means. It's like I know what you're referencing, and you don't know what that means either. Because this piece is nothing of that.
Yeah. And how do you feel about Daffy Duck? Seriously, come on. Bring it up.
It's like, it's absolutely.
He's got a red band around a white band around his neck, like a collar. What's up?
It's
Don't get me started about Mickey Mouse. Anyway. You don't want to go there. Disney will have a fit if they sit down and go, what white gloves? What do you mean minstrels?
Right. Yeah.
What?
It's like,
no. White face. What?
Right.
Oh, okay, everybody, get the backs. We're shutting this show down.
Right.
All except for around his eyes and his mouth. Anyway,
we can, sure.
You can pull that out of. You can find something from that time period that the sensibilities today have grown out of.
I mean, it's like,
some things are still taken for granted, and other things aren't. That's right.
All. But because people don't want to be educated, they'd rather forget. They think that if they don't know it, then it's like, it's that means the world is pure, and it's like, no, that's not how it works, honey.
So there's a critical blast. There's a genetic defect in the species that has taken away the ability for anyone to get metaphor.
Really, it's like nobody wants nuance. Nobody wants to use their imagination, which I think is the most disturbing part of a lot of this conversation.
I blame MTV for that. No, just kidding. Yeah.
Mike Diana, it's like no, absolutely not. That people just, I don't know, that we're even using their imaginations. It's like people are afraid of themselves. They're afraid of their own thought process. And it's like, wow, it's like, who needs a totalitarian government when you can do that shit yourself?
Let alone stretch their imagination,
Yeah,
Too scared. Can't do that.
Self-censorship is the worst.
And there are people who are just taking it to an extreme. And the problem is that they're taking it out on us.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because we refuse to do that, with our work and cater to them and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, and all of a sudden, it's like, and they don't know how to handle that. What do you mean you won't change your story because I was traumatized by it? Because that's a you problem, not a me problem.
Right.
What do you mean you're not catering this to children? Because I'm not interested in entertaining your children. What do you mean? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like the customer's always right. No, that's not how the phrase is. And no, you're not always right. And you know what? You're not my customer.
In order for the customer to be right, they need to be a customer.
Right. Exactly.
That is the thing. It's like, don't tell me what I can and can't do. Once you buy my stuff, and you effectively have an opinion. You do have an opinion. It doesn't mean I need to listen to it, but you have an opinion. But until then, shut up and go away.
Yeah. Well, Marv brings up a point though, because like as we discussed, as we discussed, pretty much for predominantly for through this 2 hours, even when you say it's like they said, art is political, and no matter how neutral you try to make your story, it is because it's like we're affected by the politics around us, so it seeps into our work. So it's very disingenuous to say that, oh, art doesn't have an agenda, or this doesn't have, or it has an agenda, or it doesn't have an agenda, or it is political, or it's not political. Everything is political. Everything that we do is political. Now, how people react to it, that's the extension that they're giving the work. It's like I could have stuff in my comic that maybe I don't even think twice about. This is just something, these are just tropes that I like. But someone is going to come across it and read it as something completely different and accuse it's like, oh, this is my agenda.
I don't know that I'd agree with the word political, simply because it's charged with left and right. Maybe agenda, possibly ideology, maybe
probably,
but just the way that you see the world, obviously has an effect on the way that you create stories. And people don't all see the world the same way. And that's the marvelous thing about stories, is that you get an insight into other people's view of the world.
Because you see
and for our radio audience, this is coming from a chat note that we posted on the video from Marv. It says, I think that today, even if there is no agenda in a comic, people say that there is one.
Well, you see, but that's the thing. There is an agenda in every piece of art. My agenda. When I do my comics, it's my agenda. So I guess where the politics comes in is how people react or don't react to that agenda. I mean, that's the thing, because it's like, it's like I have a problem with people saying, oh, like no politics in comics. But at the same time, it's like it's a certain, like, these are certain aspects that still informs our work.
Again, so, I think the word politics and agenda get into, and it's wrong, because to say, oh, for instance, if you decide that you want to write you want to take a character, let's be topical about this. Okay. You want to take a character from Marvel and you want to change their gender. Okay, that is not political. It's not political.
I think there's also a huge problem with the definition between political and point of view.
But let me finish the point. It's not political. There is an agenda there.
Yeah.
But it's not political. Okay, it's not left and right. It's an agenda. It's a way that writer sees the world and wants to fashion the world that they've been given as an IP into what they want to imprint on the world. And again, I would say, I don't want you to do that to the things that I've grown up with and loved. There's no reason why you can't do another version. There's no reason why you can't add to it and make more. Don't change, add, put more stuff out there. Be brave, actually believe in the things that you're talking about and want to do. If you have an agenda, back it up. Like, believe in it, and don't just want to change other people's views. Just give people, and the difference is, and where I was going with this is this whole politics agenda. There's always been politics. There's always been agendas in comics. There always should be, exactly like you're saying, because it's a personal opinion. We're all built out of our experiences and about the way that the world is. Okay, it should all be there. The one thing that is kind of missing in a lot of stuff at the moment is giving the reader the choice to understand it the way they want to understand it, or giving the reader the opportunity to draw an opinion from it, instead of just writing into the script, this is what's right, and if you don't like it, you're wrong.
That's because it's hard to find good writers, especially up there in the mainstream anymore, that can handle that type of nuance.
So if you imprint yourself too much into an existing character, or even to a brand new story, you're not giving the reader the room
Right.
to appreciate your opinions, to appreciate where you're coming
Yeah.
from, and to actually join you, at least come halfway.
Yeah.
And the world at the moment doesn't want you to come halfway.
Right.
It wants you to do what it wants you to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't think exactly that way, then you are a zealot and you should be removed.
Right.
And that's what's wrong.
Oh yeah,
The art of the
got that called
yeah.
at me. Sure.
the art of expression, the art of conversation, the art of exchange of ideas is being removed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And comics have always been so damn good at that.
Yeah.
Whatever the politics or the agenda or the opinion of the writer,
Right. Yeah.
there's always been this opportunity to draw different things, different facts, different opinions, different aspects of every story, and make an opinion for yourself as the reader.
Ideas as far as the mind can reach.
Yes, exactly.
And that the eye can put on paper.
Right.
Grant Lankard says, I don't understand this idea that your politics should be divorced from your art. Your politics informs your worldview, which informs your art.
But it's but it's this whole thing about definitions too. Because it's like my politics affects my art. It does. So it's like, of course it's part of story.
I think
there's someone else who's going to read it and say, oh, I'm trying to force something onto them because they're reading it. And it's like, look, you're having a reaction to my artwork, but that's something for you to suss out on your own.
My view of the word politics is very much a hard definition of politics.
Right.
Politics is the way you vote. For me, this is my opinion.
Well,
politics is the way you vote. Okay,
Yeah.
it's what you might think your taxes should be used for. It's the way that you think society governmentally should be driven in a certain way. Everything outside of that is lifestyle, it's opinion, it's even to a degree it's ideology. Okay, so for me personally, I know that my voting isn't in my storytelling. Okay, but my opinions, myself, the mass of my experiences, which does include some of that politics, of course, is in there.
Yeah.
So that's why I have a problem with the word politics, because I see the word politics as a very sharp-ended word.
Yeah.
That I'm not comfortable with personally.
And where you live, you have more than 2 political parties too.
Yeah, we have multiples.
Yeah.
We have lots of political parties.
Where over here in America, for the most part, it's 1 or 2, which turns into right or wrong.
Yeah.
Too many times, instead of there being all the different shades in between.
Right.
And the bizarre thing is for the longest time, from a British perspective, I've looked at Republicans and Democrats and thought, what's the difference? But that's my opinion of politics in general. I think they're all in it for themselves most of the time. But we have quite an array of political parties, and when you think about it, there's not a huge amount between them. They all go hammer and tong at each other, but a lot of them agree on different aspects. Yeah, it's just how far they want to push the button on it. Yeah. That's why that word is kind of, for me, is charged. And maybe it's a very British or European perspective on that word, and that's probably why I see it.
Over here in the States, it's just a dirty word.
Yeah.
Only,
any other 4-letter word. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to discuss it unless they've got that fire in their belly, and then they're writing.
It's like in polite conversation, you never mention politics or religion.
Exactly. Well, from our perspective, or from my perspective, from the people that I've met over my lifetime, up until very recently, where people get triggered at the most stupid things, you could have a conversation. Usually after you've had a few drinks, you could have a conversation about religion, or about politics, or about the football. Okay, all right, or whatever it might be. And you know what? If you disagree, you buy each other a drink, and that's the end of it. Okay, because everybody appreciates.
I've seen your football hooligans. Yeah. I don't know about that.
But they weren't talking about politics; they were talking about the football. But just sort of mean that the opportunity to agree to disagree has always been an important aspect of certainly of British society, and it has been eroded recently by quite a lot. People aren't allowed to disagree. Which is terrible. Or if you don't agree if you don't agree specifically with something that a certain group of people are saying is the right thing to be, the right side of history, I've heard that expression, then you are obviously evil. There's no sort of, well, can we discuss this? Maybe I think a different thing for a reason, there's no nuance. Okay. Although that in all fairness, that's the way it comes over on the internet. It's the way it comes over on the TV and what have you. I think a lot more people are far more reasonably behaved than you actually see the tip
true.
of.
Yeah, that's true.
So we kind of, there's always been that approach to doing that kind of thing. And I know, and I've always bumped into people that will say, "Oh, I'll never be friends with a Tory," or I've always bumped into people that there's very few people that say I'd never be friends with someone who's a Labour. But they're more likely to say I'll never be friends with someone who's a commie, which is a bit over the top. But I've met and I know a range of different political opinions, and I'm friends with all of them. Or at least on talking terms with all of them, and I don't care what their political opinion is. Whatever. I know for a fact that I don't agree with any of the political parties, because I find the whole thing. It's just, I won't go into it. It's just, I just think that the whole lot of them are on a game. They're not actually doing the right things for people. Because if they were, we wouldn't have the problems we've got. We've had politics for a long time, probably almost as long as comics.
All the more need for good comics.
Yeah.
All the more need for independent comics and alternative comics, people giving
And
their own point of view.
All the more need
and able to
stop
entertain
censorship,
people.
to stop telling people what they can and can't think. Let people think for themselves. Let people write for themselves and entertain for each other, so that there's a good exchange of information and ideas and concepts. The bad ideas, and when I say bad, we're talking about objectively bad things like bigotry, racism, and all that kind of stuff. These ideas are removed when they are able to be spoken about. If you drive stuff like that underground, then the wrong people get hold of them and they use them for their own their own
nefarious
means.
Exactly.
You can always discuss a bad idea out of the room.
Yeah.
With reasonable people.
Yep.
Wow.
Russ, tell people how they can find you.
Oh, you can, under a pile of cats.
Yeah, obviously.
I've become a cat man. No, I got rid of them halfway through because they were just destroying the studio.
Cat man.
No, with my right. You can find me on YouTube as Comic Book Black Belt. You can find me at russleach.com, at comicbookblackbelt.com. If you go to my websites, please do sign up for the email list. Book 2 is on the way. There's lots of information about the reprints in Arrow Comics. I'm doing all kinds of other stuff. I'm doing on another book called Outliers with Joe Fulton, which is another Bronze Age book, which is why I joined up, because I just love that all ages Bronze Age stuff. So if you like that stuff as well, go find out more about me at russleach.com, comicbookblackbelt.com, or onlydeathcansaveus.com. You can find me on the Twitter, the Fleecebook, on the Instagram, and on the other one as well, Minds. That's it. I'm over on Minds as well.
Oh my God, there's a new one.
I'm sure somebody will hate me for that, but I'm out
Start
there.
making them up. Find us on glubglub.com.
Glub. You can find me on glubglub.com as glubglub me, glubglub black belt, and just come find me. I like to speak about comic books and comic book art. If you've got a comic book that you are currently producing or funding or whatever, tell me about it. I'll retweet it. I'll share it, because I want everybody to get hold of as many comic books as possible. And I love great art. I love seeing it. I love retweeting, talking about it, sharing it. So come find me.
Daphne, tell folks how they can find you.
You can head over to my main portfolio site at egoworks.com, EGOWRKS, where you can find links to all of my galleries and social media sites. But I mostly post to Facebook if you're interested in seeing sketches and current work in progress and updates and all that. Facebook is usually the best place to find me on. You can also find me on YouTube. I have to start doing the weekly streams again on Wednesday, so June was kind of empty of that, but I'm going to start up again. And so if you head over, so if you go also on Eagle Works, you can read the first 5 issues of Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, for free in its original black and white format. But if you prefer your fantasy to be more adventure oriented, you can head over to talltalesonline.com, and you can read the first 20 issues of Tall Tales for free. And on either of the websites, if you don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, because we have our scheduled and unscheduled campaigns for the rest of the year, so you don't want to miss out on anything there. So eagleworks.com.
Sweet. And folks, again, I want to thank you so much for listening in or for viewing in. You've been watching another episode of the Sunday Funnies for the 4th of July for 2021. I've been your host, Randy Zimmerman. You can always contact me on Facebook under Randy Zimmerman. I tell you can find me at Twitter under Randy Zim, but I don't go over there very often. You can find Arrow Comics 4.0 on Linktree, and also the Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter, all for Arrow Comics 4.0, where we're showing off just some of the product that we've got coming your way. Starting in August, we'll be kicking out Hybrids by Luke Stone as in a remastered version that's absolutely fantastic. We'll be doing Only Death Can Save Us from Russ Leach. Also, in August, we'll be doing Herobot Zero, which is a character of my creation I've always wanted to do a book on, and I'm fortunate now to be able to do that. And also Indie Volt Revolt, the book that we crowdfunded before as a large anthology book. We're taking some of the stories from there and some original material and putting it together into a 32-page black and white anthology title, kind of like an independent or an alternative comics version of Heavy Metal. You never know what to expect unless it's got a definite theme. And November's theme, which would be issue number 4, I believe, will be all dedicated to Anniversary, and will carry a Daphne Leitch cover.
Thank you, sir.
So we'll have serious funny animals in that book. New material, some old material, some and I think a story that's never been printed before. So
damn, that duck looks hot.
Thank you, sir.
That's awesome. That's Ganda. She's a barbarian type duck that works with Mischievous doing bounty hunting. So yeah, a lot of fun. More stuff coming in September, but you find out more about that by looking up Arrow Comics 4.0 at your local big platforms. YouTube also has a set of videos over there that I keep swearing I'll put more stuff in there. I keep meaning to take the last show we did on Arrow Comics and splice that down into a basic primer for folks getting ready to look at Arrow Comics starting in August. Available through Liberty Distribution. LEDG.us. Tell your retailer to look that over and sign up now, because come August, there'll be a lot of product up there, and I think you're going to see Liberty do a small bit of an explosion on the market because of the new product that they will have out there, and there will be a rush to get that stuff. And because Liberty offers only material and books that they have on hand, that they have in their warehouse, as they say on TV, supplies will be limited. So be careful, and you want to get in on that as soon as possible. Watch for Russ's second book, Only Death Can Save Us. That'll be coming up for Indiegogo when? Next month or so?
It was supposed to be September. It could well be October. I'm very busy. Very, 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 very busy. You know that, Randy.
Very busy. We're all busy. We're all busy.
Really.
We're around like chickens with our heads cut off. Don't forget the Indie Volt.
It will be in the autumn. Sorry, it will be in the autumn. So.
Don't forget the Indie Volt Awards. IndieVoltAwards.com. September 18th. We'll be at our local Dave & Buster's, but we'll be broadcasting live throughout the world, giving away actual trophies on a judged event, not a popularity contest, not a lousy, sleazy site online, but an actual broadcasted event as we give away trophies for the best product from a judge, a panel of judges, 6 long. What?
Like these trophies. Yeah.
Like those trophies.
Yeah.
Trophies. Real trophies.
Real trophies. And for books, in order to raise the awareness of independent and alternative comics, and a lot of books that are out there that are super quality that nobody gets to see. So you'll be amazed at the contestants. You can sign up now. You can learn more about how to enter your book. Enter it now. There's a small fee in order to enter the judging, which is donated off to Autism Speaks. So get over there now, indievoltawards.com, and check that out more. I have to switch the back. Well, we also have a special sponsor with Gemini Mailers. If you go over to GeminiComicSupply.com and you want to buy Gemini Mailers, because if you do comics or crowdfund comics or ship comics at all, you're going to want to use a Gemini mailer in order to make sure they get over there safely. As you are checking out, make sure you use the code VOLT10, VOLT, the number 1 and the number 0, and you will get 10% off of your order over there at GeminiComicSupply.com. Other than that, we will see you actually later today. Ooh. I believe Varian plans on doing another episode of the Indie Volt special issues. I'm not sure if Varian's available or available to pop up online to say anything about that.
I am.
You are. Are you doing Indie Volt special issues later today?
I am. Oh. We're going to be discussing the dangers of some of the division within our creative community, especially the use of a list to determine who you can and will work with.
That's wrong. McCarthyism. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Inexcusable is what it is.
Yeah, well, they're doing it, unfortunately, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to see how people feel about it. That's what the show is about.
And folks, if you missed last Sunday's Indie Volt special issues, we ran one on Sunday night about the creation and destruction of Terraform Comics. I know it's 3 hours and 48 minutes long, but it's well worth your time to sit and listen. There's a lot of very valuable lessons to be learned there.
That was an intense episode, I have to admit.
It is really becoming our most viewed show that we've ever done. And we invite people to go over onto YouTube and to check that out. Last Sunday's special issues called Unearthed, the story of Terraform Comics. It's very important for people to sit and listen to that or watch it, especially if you're in this industry. There's a lot of lessons to be learned there. A lot of mistakes were made. A lot of things were done. A lot of unbelievable piles of crap were thrown. And this episode really approached it from what we hope was a level-headed and straightforward, factual point of view, or everybody that was there said their piece, and now we're moving on. So can't wait to show you the stuff coming out of Arrow Comics. Can't wait to talk to you more about comics. Varian and myself will be back Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Livewire program, along with a few special guests. Then Wednesday night, Daphne and the Indie Princess do Geekgasm at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That addresses geekdom from a more feminine perspective. Then Thursday morning, Daphne, myself, and Varian, if he's awake, do the Breakfast Buzz at 9 a.m. on Thursday morning. And then we'll be back again on Sunday morning, Sunday 9 a.m. for another episode of the Sunday Funnies, where we try to put the fun back in funny books, at least, though the topics today got a little heavy. But we were kind of talking about independent and alternative comics and the political aspects and things that strike from there. So we deeply appreciate everybody listening. Varian, are we on the radio at all?
We are. I don't have the number, so.
Okay. Well, at least we're on the radio. And anybody out there listening to us off of indievolt.com, Indievolt Radio, we deeply appreciate you listening. We know you're out there in the tens of thousands, and we love all of you. And we love the fact that you listen to us on a regular basis.
Sugar turned up.
Hey, Sugar.
Hey, Sugar.
She always turns up last 5 minutes of the show. Sugar, hope you're doing well. To everybody else in the chat, thank you very much. Thanks for your input. This has been an episode of the Sunday Funnies for the 4th of July, 2021. And we're going to go out the same way we came in. And Daphne, say that tagline.
Buy independent comics, especially ours.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Do it.
Oh, yeah. Do it. Do it. Everybody take care. We'll see you soon. Definitely next Sunday.
Ciao.
Take care, everyone. Stay healthy.
what you've accomplished.
Do you draw the Flintstones naked?